The countdown music thumped through the Mercer living room, but the sound barely registered. I felt it before I heard it, the shift in the air, the sudden prickle of attention moving toward me like a spotlight I never asked for. Dorian clinked his glass against a marble counter and lifted it high, already wearing that grin he saved for moments he planned. "Everyone," he announced. A quick toast to my sister Juliana, career woman. No fiancé, no kids, and still acting like she is the heir to something. A few guests laughed too loudly. My mother smiled behind her wine. My father did the small nod he used when he approved of Dorian's cruelty. My pulse stayed steady. I had rehearsed this calm for years. Dorian took another step toward me. "Come on, Jules. Say something. Tell them how independence is going for you." Before I spoke, Serena Vale touched his elbow. Most people in the room believed she was his girlfriend. Only 2 people knew she wasn't. Her voice was soft but edged with steel. "You really should stop now." He barked a laugh. "Relax. Serena, it's just family." She looked at me over her shoulder, the smallest nod passing between us real, deliberate, dangerous. My lips barely moved, but the answer was clear. Not yet. The room kept buzzing, pretending to enjoy itself, pretending this was harmless. I breathed in slowly. "Enjoy the party." "Dorian," I said. "You'll want to remember it." Something flickered in his expression, confusion or irritation. I couldn't tell. He opened his mouth, but the countdown from the television drowned him out. 10, 9, 8. A woman I didn't know leaned toward her husband. "She handles it well," she whispered. No, handling it was all I had ever done. But tonight was different. Tonight, the ledger was full. If you're ready to hear how everything shifted before the clock struck midnight, stay with me. I promise you won't forget what happened next. The jeers in the Mercer living room always pulled me backward, straight into the long echo of dinners where I learned my place before I learned long division. I was 12 the night my mother slid the serving platter toward Dorian first, as always. He speared the best cut before I even picked up my fork. When I reached for a second spoonful, her voice cut the air clean. "Juliana, ladies do not take more than they are given." Dorian smirked. My father didn't look up from his phone. Years later, when the letter came from Carnegie Mellon, my hands shook as I carried it into the kitchen. "Full aid package," I whispered. "Everything covered." My mother scanned the page once. "Dorian was waitlisted at Duke," she said. "He will need support." "That is not the same thing." I said. "It is exactly the same thing," my father replied. "We invest where the return is highest." I still remember the hollow click in my chest when my mother logged into the shared family email, the one we had used for all my applications. She typed quickly, efficiently, declined, family relocation, aid not needed. I said, "You cannot do that." She answered without looking at me. "A daughter with realistic expectations will thank us one day." 2 weeks later, the aid office sent a confirmation to the same shared inbox offer withdrawn. That same week, nearly $10,000 disappeared from the joint account my parents had opened when I was a minor. A sticky note waited on my dresser, Dorian's entrepreneurship program. "We will repay you when things settle." Nothing ever settled. Even now, standing in the glow of the New Year's countdown, I felt that same old pressure in my ribs, the cold instruction that I was never meant to cost them anything, only to cover what he lacked. At Oakton Community College, no one knew I came from a house where my future had been decided for me. I worked the night shift at a grocery store, stocked shelves until my fingers cramped, then rode 2 buses to morning classes. No one there cared about my last name. It was the first thing that ever felt fair. When I finally transferred to the University of Illinois Chicago, I kept my head down and my schedule full. I built projects alone in computer labs, turned down study groups, and never spoke about the scholarship I should have had. Silence was easier than explaining. Then, one night during senior year, A woman slid into the seat next to me in the campus cafe and said, "Your code is cleaner than the entire team at my internship." I looked up. Serena Vale. Confident posture, sharp eyes, a voice that left no space for doubt. "You do not even know me," I said. "I know competence," she replied. "And I know when a company is stealing it." I barely breathed. "They took credit for your work too." She laughed without humor. "They always do. So tell me, why are we still building futures for people who will never say thank you?" Something in her tone loosened a knot I had held for years. "We do not have to," I said quietly. Serena leaned forward like she had been waiting for that line. "Good. Then let's stop." Serena and I signed the Northspan digital paperwork at her tiny kitchen table in Logan Square. The heat barely worked, but her confidence could have warmed the whole apartment. She tapped her pen once. $6,200, she said. "That is all we have to build a company." I shrugged. "I have built entire semesters with less." She grinned. "Then we are already ahead." Our first client was a local cafe owner who found us through a student forum. He pushed the contract toward us and said, "If you can make my place look alive online, I will pay $1,800. Serena stuck out her hand. "We will make it impossible to ignore." We worked for 9 days straight. When his payment cleared, she threw her arms around me. "Juliana, do you understand? We actually did this." I did not say it aloud, but yes, I understood. It was the first money I had ever earned that no one could reroute to Dorian. After that, we stumbled through everything. We underpriced a national retailer and lost them. We overpromised a brewery and nearly drowned in revisions. Some nights we ate noodles because we had nothing else. Other nights we argued over headlines and exhausted each other until we laughed. By year's end, we rented a small office in Fulton Market. It smelled like paint and ambition. Serena stood in the center of the empty room, arms wide. "This is ours," she said. "Not your parents', not mine. Ours." For the first time in my life, I felt the weight of a door closing behind me and the freedom of another opening. Serena looked at me then, eyes warm. "Juliana," she said softly, "you are allowed to win now." 2 years after Northspan began turning real profit, Serena burst into my office with a look I had never seen on her face. "Your parents are here," she whispered, "and they brought him." Before I could respond, Evelyn Mercer swept through the doorway as if she owned the lease. Charles followed, slow and evaluative. Dorian trailed behind them in a suit so new the stitching at the cuff was still visible. Evelyn clasped her hands. "Juliana, darling, we have wonderful news. We have decided Dorian will be joining the company as strategy director." Serena straightened. "That position does not exist." "It does now," Evelyn replied, still smiling. "He has ideas, presence, leadership qualities that complement your technical strengths." Dorian rested his arm on the doorframe. "Relax, Jules. I will take some weight off your shoulders." "My shoulders are not the problem," I said. Charles stepped in. "Your brother has a degree from Duke. You should show some gratitude." Serena cut in. "We have a full team. We cannot just remove someone to make space." Evelyn's smile sharpened. "That will not be an issue. We already spoke with your operations manager." 2 hours later, a mid-level strategist packed her desk into a cardboard box and left the office with red-rimmed eyes. Dorian arrived late on his first day. On his second day, he took a 3-hour lunch. On his third, he called a junior designer kid and asked her to fetch coffee. The real fracture came one night after I spent 12 hours building a pitch deck for a national retailer. In the morning meeting, the deck was already in the client folder renamed Dorian Mercer, Strategic Vision. Serena looked at the revision history, then at me. Her jaw clenched. Dorian slid into the conference room chair and said, "Team effort, right." No one answered. But a shift happened then, quiet and irreversible. I felt it. Serena felt it. And for the first time, Dorian sensed that I was not someone he could walk over forever. The night the evidence arrived, I was alone in the office. Everyone had gone home hours earlier, including Dorian, who left after announcing to the team that Juliana needs more mentorship. I ignored him the same way I ignored the tightness in my jaw. My laptop chimed. One new email. No subject, no message. Just an attachment. Ledger Composite 87 XLSX. I clicked it open. Rows of numbers filled the screen with withdrawals labeled Vendor Advance, Influencer Activation, and Consulting Retainer. The amounts were small enough to slip under casual review, but consistent enough to form a pattern. $3,400, $4,100, $5,600, all timed minutes after major NFL game endings. A voice came from the doorway. You see it too. I turned. Clara Shin, our former accountant, stood there with her bag still on her shoulder. She looked tired in a way I recognized, tired of being dismissed, tired of swallowing the truth. I kept read-only access after I resigned. She said quietly, Charles would not let me investigate. So I investigated anyway. I gestured to the screen. How long? 14 months. She replied, a total of $84,900, and he forged your digital signature on 3 tax forms. My throat tightened. Why bring it to me now? Clara stepped closer. Because you are the only one who will not pretend this is a rounding error. I closed the laptop gently. We need an attorney. The next afternoon, Serena and I sat across from a corporate fraud lawyer on Wacker Drive. She flipped through Clara's file for less than 15 minutes before looking up. This is not just internal theft, she said. This is federal tax manipulation. If you file, the IRS will open a case. Serena leaned back, calm and lethal. Then we file. That night, after the documents were signed and the whistleblower packet sealed, I told Serena everything, every stolen chance, every redirected dollar, every lesson in silence my parents had drilled into me. Serena listened without moving. Then she said, Juliana, they raised you to serve them, but you built something they cannot own. Her words landed like a match in a dry field. For the first time in my life, I felt something sharper than anger. I felt ready. I drove to Evanston on the 30th of December with the whistleblower packet sealed in my bag and Serena's plan replaying in my mind. The Mercer house glowed across the block, bright enough to look warm from the outside. It never was. My phone vibrated. A message from Serena, already inside under the role everyone believed she played. He is bragging again. Says the company would collapse without him. I typed back, tomorrow, midnight. Her reply came instantly. Always. When I stepped through the front door, Dorian spotted me first. He lifted a glossy black USB from the counter and smirked. This yours, Jules. Do not worry. I will not tell anyone you still build your little secret projects. I took it from his hand. You would not understand them anyway. He laughed, a loud, confident sound that used to flatten me. It did nothing now. Upstairs, my childhood room waited exactly as I had left it years ago, posters curling at the edges. The desk where I learned to solve problems no one bothered to help me with. I sat on the bed fully dressed, hands clasped, heart steady. Serena texted once more before I slept. You are not alone tomorrow. I answered with the truth. I never was. I just did not know it. New Year's Eve moved through the house like a storm. By the time the countdown hit 10, Dorian was already holding court in the center of the living room, whiskey in hand, grin sharpened for the crowd. Everyone, he called out, a final toast to my sister Juliana, still single, still intense, still pretending Northspan would exist without me. Laughter scattered across the room. My mother hid a smile behind her glass. My father nodded as if Dorian were delivering a quarterly report. I stood near the archway, steady. At 8, Serena slipped out from under Dorian's arm. At 7, She walked to the television. At 6, she picked up the remote and pressed a button. The countdown vanished. The room fell silent. The screen lit up again Northspan's logo, followed by a slide with 4 words in crimson Dorian Mercer. Terminated immediately. A murmur rippled. Dorian blinked hard. "What the hell is this?" Serena's voice was calm and carrying. "My name is Serena Vale. I am co-founder of Northspan Digital. Not his girlfriend." She clicked again. "And these are the transfers he made with company funds." Rows of figures appeared, $84,900 in unauthorized withdrawals, betting accounts, forged tax forms. My mother gasped. My father went rigid. "Juliana, say something," Dorian snapped, voice cracking. I stepped forward. "For years you used my silence as proof you could take whatever you wanted. That ends now." 3 sharp knocks hit the door. My father opened it to 2 agents in dark jackets. "IRS criminal investigation." One announced, "We have a warrant for Dorian Mercer." The room exploded into shouts and movement. Dorian reached for me, desperate. "Jules, help me." I met his eyes. "I already have." Denver felt nothing like Evanston. The air was cleaner, the voices kinder, and the future finally sounded like something that belonged to me. Northspan's new office overlooked the Platte River, all glass and quiet confidence. Serena stood across the hall in her own space, already arguing with a client who adored her. Clara arrived early on her first day as CFO. She set her bag down beside my desk. "It feels good to build something without pretending," she said. "It does," I answered. News traveled quickly in our world. My parents had sold the Evanston house after back taxes and penalties gutted their savings. They moved into a modest condo near Des Plaines. No one called me. I changed my number anyway. That afternoon, I opened my laptop and clicked on the folder titled The Mercer Ledger. Every document that once kept me awake stared back transfers, forgeries, revision histories, proof of everything I survived. I selected all the files and hit delete. Serena stepped onto the balcony beside me with 2 coffees. "You did it," she said softly. "No," I replied. "We did." Below us, the river kept moving steady, unbothered, carrying only what mattered.